what my grandparents taught me about prosperity and success. There are moments in life when the answers we search for in books, seminars, or motivational videos appear in the simplest places, in the words of those who came before us. My grandparents never studied quantum physics, they didn't know about neuroscience, and they never read a single self-help book. But their daily actions, their mindset, and the way they faced challenges taught me lessons about prosperity and success that are more powerful than any modern theory. These teachings shaped me, and today I want to share them with you, not as old-fashioned advice, but as timeless wisdom that still works in our fast-paced modern world. If you've been searching for clarity, direction, or a reminder of what truly creates abundance, this might be the breakthrough moment you've been waiting for. Topic 1. The power of gratitude before the harvest. My grandfather had a peculiar habit that, as a child, I didn't quite understand. He would walk into his modest garden every morning, look at the soil, sometimes dry, sometimes cracked, sometimes barely sprouting anything, and he would smile. Then he would say words that sounded strange to me at the time. "Thank you for what's coming." I used to look at him, puzzled, wondering, why thank something that isn't even here yet? He didn't explain with complicated theories. He simply lived with a certainty that gratitude was not a reaction. It was a cause. Years later, when I started studying success, manifestation, and prosperity, I realized what he was doing. He was aligning his mind with abundance, not scarcity. He was teaching me that true prosperity doesn't begin when the harvest arrives, when the bank account is full, or when recognition comes. Prosperity begins in the invisible realm of faith and gratitude, long before the visible results show up. And that is the secret most people miss. They wait for evidence before they feel grateful. They wait for money before they feel rich. They wait for opportunities before they feel ready. But by waiting, they unconsciously affirm lack, and lack expands. Think about it. When you wake up and immediately list the things you're grateful for, even if they're small, you tune your mind to abundance. And when you dare to thank life for things that haven't happened yet, you accelerate their manifestation. My grandfather's garden became my first classroom in abundance. He taught me that gratitude is a magnet. Gratitude multiplies what you already have and attracts what you don't yet see. In practical terms, how can you apply this? Begin each morning by expressing gratitude not only for what you already enjoy, but also for what you desire, as if it's already on its way. Say thank you for the financial freedom you're building, for the relationships you're cultivating, for the health that is strengthening inside you. Don't beg, don't plead, declare it with confidence, the same way my grandfather smiled at his empty garden, knowing the harvest was inevitable. Today, I look back and realize his smile wasn't naive. It was wisdom in action. He wasn't just thanking the soil, he was reprogramming his own mind, shifting his focus away from scarcity toward possibility. That's why he never appeared desperate, even when times were hard. His energy was one of assurance, and that assurance created results. So here's the truth. Gratitude is not passive. It's an active, powerful force. It transforms your state of being, which in turn transforms your actions, your decisions, and the opportunities you perceive. Gratitude makes you magnetic. Gratitude makes you resourceful. Gratitude makes you unstoppable. This was the first and perhaps the greatest lesson I ever learned about prosperity and success. And it's a principle that modern science now echoes. Gratitude rewires the brain, reduces stress, and amplifies creativity. But my grandfather didn't need a laboratory to prove it. He lived it, and he passed it on. Many people believe prosperity begins with wealth in the bank or opportunities handed down. But my grandparents showed me it starts with perspective. The way you choose to see the world determines how you act within it. They taught me that a mindset of gratitude and responsibility is richer than any inheritance because it gives you the power to shape your own destiny instead of waiting for life to provide it. That inner shift becomes the foundation for outer results. I also realized, through their example, that prosperity is not just about material growth. It's about emotional and spiritual abundance. They carried themselves with quiet dignity, no matter how little they had at the moment. That dignity was contagious. It influenced how others treated them and how opportunities found them. Prosperity, I discovered, is first an inside job that the outside world eventually reflects back to you. The garden may have been small, but the mindset he modeled was vast. He taught me, don't wait for the harvest to feel wealthy. Feel wealthy now, and the harvest will come. And it always did. Topic 2. Discipline is the silent builder of prosperity. My grandmother had a saying that still echoes in my mind. Prosperity doesn't shout, it whispers through discipline. She lived by this principle every single day. From the way she woke up early to prepare breakfast, to how she carefully organized her small savings in envelopes, she embodied the truth that success is not a single, explosive event. Success is built quietly, piece by piece, through daily discipline. When I was young, I used to think discipline was boring. I thought success was about sudden opportunities, lucky breaks, or dramatic changes in life. But my grandmother showed me something different. She taught me that wealth, prosperity, and abundance are less about miracles and more about consistency. She wasn't waiting for the lottery. She wasn't waiting for a miracle investor. She was creating her prosperity day after day, with the little choices that compound over time. Here's what I discovered. Discipline is the invisible force that turns dreams into reality. It's easy to set big goals, to declare, I want to be rich, I want to succeed, I want freedom. But how many people wake up the next day and take one small, deliberate action toward that goal? Most don't. And that's why dreams dissolve into frustration. But those who do, that's where the line is drawn between wishing and achieving. My grandmother's life was proof. She used to say, little drops make an ocean. She didn't have much money, but she treated every coin with respect. Instead of complaining about not having enough, she asked herself, how can I make the most of what I have? How can I use this wisely? Over time, those small acts of discipline added up. She never had the flashiest clothes or the most luxurious house, but she never lived in scarcity either. She lived in a state of quiet prosperity because she mastered discipline. And here's the hidden beauty of discipline. It doesn't just build wealth, it builds character. It builds self-respect. Every time you show up for yourself, when you wake up early, when you save instead of spending mindlessly, when you stick to your plan instead of giving in to distractions, you prove to yourself that you can be trusted. And when you trust yourself, you move with a confidence that others can see. Opportunities start coming your way, not because the universe suddenly favors you, but because you've become someone who can handle prosperity. Think about it. Without discipline, wealth slips through your fingers. How many stories have you heard of people who win the lottery or inherit a fortune, only to lose it all within a few years? Why does that happen? Because money without discipline is like water without a container. It spills everywhere and disappears. Discipline is the container that holds prosperity, allowing it to grow instead of evaporate. So, what does this mean for you today? It means prosperity is not just about affirmations, visualization, or desire. It's about aligning your daily actions with the vision you hold in your heart. If you want financial abundance, discipline yourself to save, invest, and learn. If you want success in your career, discipline yourself to grow your skills, show up prepared, and add value consistently. If you want better health, discipline yourself to eat with intention, to move your body, to rest with purpose. Discipline is not punishment. It is self-love in action. It is the structure that allows your potential to blossom into reality. My grandmother never called it that. She just lived it. She would wake up and follow her routine with no complaints because she knew prosperity doesn't appear overnight. It grows silently, like a seed nurtured day after day, until one day the harvest surprises everyone else. Discipline was not a punishment in their eyes. It was a gift. They believed that the structure you create for yourself becomes the ladder that carries you to higher places. My grandfather used to say, if you can't lead yourself, how can you lead your life? That wisdom taught me that discipline isn't about restriction. It's about freedom, because it frees you from the chaos of inconsistency. In today's world, distractions are everywhere, and discipline is often misunderstood as rigidity. But my grandparents lived proof that discipline creates choices. It allowed them to live with dignity, to save when others spent, and to stay calm when others panicked. Discipline built resilience, and resilience built prosperity that no storm could erase. Here's the truth she passed on. Prosperity is not built in the future. It's built in the present, with every choice you make. And if you truly want success, you don't wait for discipline to find you. You choose it, you live it, you repeat it, because discipline, while quiet, is the most powerful builder of lasting abundance. Topic 3. Wealth is built on relationships, not just resources. One of the clearest lessons my grandfather taught me came not from money, but from the way he treated people. He used to say, "A man with strong relationships is wealthier than a man with gold in his pocket." At first, I didn't understand what he meant. I thought wealth was measured by possessions, numbers in a bank account, or visible success. But as I grew older, I realized what he was pointing to. Prosperity is not built in isolation. True success is woven through the quality of the relationships you cultivate. My grandfather was not the richest man in town in material terms, but when he walked through the streets, everyone greeted him. Farmers trusted him, neighbors respected him, friends sought his advice. Even people who disagreed with him admired the way he stood by his word. And I noticed something powerful. Opportunities came to him, not because he had more resources, but because he had something far more valuable: trust. Trust, respect, and genuine connection are currencies greater than money. Money can be lost, but trust multiplies. Wealth that grows from authentic relationships is sustainable because people invest in people, not just in ideas. You might have the best business plan, the most brilliant invention, or the sharpest vision. But if no one believes in you, supports you, or walks with you, your chances of success shrink. On the other hand, if you build relationships based on honesty, generosity, and respect, doors will open in places you never imagined. I remember watching my grandmother in her small kitchen. She didn't have much to offer materially, but whenever someone visited, she'd make sure they left with something: a cup of coffee, a piece of bread, or simply her warmth. That generosity built a reputation. People remembered how they felt in her presence. And when difficult times came, help always appeared. Not because she asked for it, but because her relationships carried within them an invisible abundance bank account, one that kept paying dividends. This principle is as true today as it was in their time. In the modern world, we might call it networking, but it's deeper than that. Networking often carries a sense of transaction. What can I get from you? But the wisdom of my grandparents was about building bonds that went beyond transactions. It was about planting seeds of kindness, respect, and reliability, knowing that sooner or later, those seeds would bloom into opportunities, alliances, and prosperity. Think about your own journey. Who are the people you surround yourself with? Do they lift you higher, or do they drain your energy? And more importantly, what kind of presence are you in their lives? Do people feel valued, respected, and inspired when they interact with you? Or do they feel used and dismissed? This is not just a moral question. It's a prosperity question. Because your wealth in life will often reflect the wealth of your relationships. Here's something I realized. Every successful person I've ever studied, whether in business, leadership, or personal growth, had one thing in common. They valued people. They built teams, communities, and networks of trust. And when setbacks came, they didn't fall alone. They had others to lean on, and that made all the difference. So here's the timeless truth my grandparents handed down. Don't chase wealth at the expense of relationships. Instead, nurture relationships and watch how wealth naturally follows. Be the person who keeps promises, who listens, who helps without expecting something in return. The world may change, technology may evolve, but human connection remains the foundation of prosperity. The modern world often tempts us to believe we can do it all alone. But isolation is poverty, and community is wealth. My grandfather's life proved it. His bank account may not have been filled with millions, but his life was overflowing with abundance because he understood that relationships are the true currency of success. Gratitude, they believed, was a magnet. It didn't just change how they felt, it changed what came into their lives. When you begin to notice blessings, even in small things, you naturally attract more to be grateful for. My grandmother's prayers weren't just words. They were acknowledgments that trained her eyes to see abundance where others only saw lack. Modern research now proves what my grandparents knew intuitively. Gratitude reshapes the brain. It shifts your focus away from scarcity and toward possibilities. By living with grateful hearts, they carried an energy that opened doors, built connections, and gave them peace through uncertainty. Gratitude to them was not just a virtue. It was a strategy for prosperity. And here's the final reminder from this lesson. Money can make you comfortable, but relationships make you truly rich. Build wisely, invest deeply, and value the people around you. Prosperity is not just about what you own. It's about who walks with you on the journey. Topic 4. Simplicity is the hidden doorway to abundance. One of the greatest paradoxes I learned from my grandparents is that simplicity often unlocks the deepest levels of prosperity. My grandmother used to say, "When life is simple, the heart is full." At the time, I didn't understand what she meant. How could less be more? How could living simply be connected to success, which the world always painted as something grand, glamorous, and filled with luxury? But over the years, I began to see the truth behind her words. Simplicity is not about lack. Simplicity is clarity. It strips away the unnecessary distractions, the noise, the endless pursuit of things that don't actually add value. Simplicity makes room for what matters most: purpose, joy, health, meaningful work, and strong relationships. And when those are in place, abundance flows naturally. My grandfather lived by this principle too. He was never obsessed with owning the latest things or chasing every shiny object. He wore the same jacket for years, fixed broken tools instead of throwing them away, and never bought what he didn't need. But here's the paradox. Despite not chasing wealth, he always had enough. He managed his life so simply that he avoided the trap of debt, of comparison, of living beyond his means. And because his life was uncluttered, he could focus his energy on opportunities that truly mattered. That's the hidden secret. Simplicity doesn't take away from your prosperity. It multiplies it. Why? Because when you live simply, your mind is clear. You are not burdened by excess. You are not chasing after endless wants that leave you exhausted. Instead, you are focused, present, and able to see opportunities that most people overlook. Think about it. In a world that constantly pushes us to want more gadgets, more clothes, more status, it's easy to confuse abundance with accumulation. But my grandparents taught me that real abundance is not how much you own, but how much you enjoy and how free you feel. You can have a closet full of clothes and still feel empty. You can have the latest car and still feel insecure. But when you cultivate simplicity, you create space for peace, freedom, and gratitude to grow. And those are the true foundations of prosperity. This lesson became especially clear to me when I started earning my own money. Like many people, I felt the temptation to buy more, to upgrade constantly, to impress others. But then I remembered my grandmother's words. I realized that the more I complicated my life with unnecessary things, the further I moved from actual fulfillment. Prosperity is not about showing off. It's about feeling aligned, balanced, and at peace with yourself. Here's what simplicity does. It removes noise so you can hear your intuition. It frees up resources so you can invest wisely. It makes your environment lighter, your decisions clearer, and your progress faster. And this doesn't mean you should reject luxury or wealth. On the contrary, it means you will attract them more naturally because you're not chasing them out of desperation. You are aligned with them, ready to welcome them into a life that already feels abundant. The modern world often equates success with complexity. We think the busier we are, the more important we must be. But busyness without purpose is poverty of the spirit. My grandparents' lives showed me that simplicity creates room for prosperity to breathe. It creates a lifestyle where money serves you, instead of you serving money. So the timeless wisdom here is simple. Stop complicating your path to success. Simplify your choices, simplify your habits, simplify your goals. When you do, you'll see that abundance is not hidden in the next purchase or the next big thing. It's already within your reach. They taught me that trust is not built overnight. It's earned in the little moments when you keep your word. I saw how their reliability created deep bonds with neighbors, friends, and family. This social capital, built on trust, was a form of wealth that no one could take away. It reminded me that prosperity thrives in communities where trust is strong. In today's fast-paced world, trust often feels fragile, easily broken by shortcuts or self-interest. But their example proved the opposite. When you nurture trust, you create stability that money cannot buy. People want to work with you, stand with you, and invest in you. Trust, they believed, was not just a moral duty. It was a foundation of lasting abundance. My grandmother's kitchen table had only the essentials: bread, fruit, and coffee. Yet sitting there felt like abundance itself. Why? Because the love was real, the gratitude was strong, and the simplicity made everything enough. That's the hidden doorway to prosperity. When you stop chasing excess, you realize you already have more than enough, and life starts multiplying it back to you. Topic 5. Hard work is sacred when aligned with purpose. My grandparents never romanticized laziness. They believed in work, real work. But here's the difference. They didn't see hard work as a punishment or as something to complain about. They saw it as sacred. My grandfather often said, "Work is not what takes life from you. It's what gives life to you when you do it with purpose." As a child, I watched him come home after long days in the fields, clothes dirty, hands calloused, yet his spirit was light. He didn't resent the effort. He would say, "Every seed I plant is a conversation with the future. Every hour of work is a gift I give to tomorrow." Those words stayed with me. He was teaching me that prosperity doesn't come from avoiding work. It comes from transforming work into meaning. In today's world, the idea of hard work is often misunderstood. Some people glorify being busy, running endlessly without direction, as if exhaustion itself proves success. Others reject work altogether, dreaming of instant riches and shortcuts. But my grandparents' wisdom was different. Work only becomes sacred when it is connected to purpose. Without purpose, hard work feels like slavery. With purpose, it feels like contribution. Think about it. When you wake up with no clear reason, every task feels heavy. But when your heart is aligned with a vision, even difficult work feels lighter. My grandmother used to wake up before dawn, bake bread, and prepare food not because she had to, but because she saw it as love in action. Her work was her way of expressing care for her family and her community. That's why she never seemed bitter about it. The timeless truth here is that prosperity is not just about money. It's about meaning. A person can earn millions and still feel empty if the work doesn't matter to them. On the other hand, someone with modest resources but a strong sense of purpose can live with a richness that no bank account could measure. My grandfather showed me this every day. He never chased fame or fortune, but he chased purpose. He worked not just for survival, but for contribution, for the idea that his effort built something beyond himself. And because of that, his work had dignity. His work had spirit. Here's the modern application. We must stop separating wealth from purpose. The wealth that truly lasts, the prosperity that truly fulfills, comes when what you do aligns with who you are. If your daily work feels like a prison, it's a sign to shift your perspective or your path. But if your work feels like a bridge between your vision and reality, then even the hardest days will strengthen you instead of draining you. Hard work, by itself, is not the secret. Countless people work long hours and remain stuck. The real secret is purposeful work, work that connects to a vision, to service, to values that resonate deeply. That's why when my grandfather plowed fields, it wasn't just about food, it was about feeding families. When my grandmother cooked, it wasn't just about meals, it was about creating warmth and belonging. That purpose turned effort into abundance. So the lesson is this: don't run from hard work. Transform it. Infuse it with meaning. Ask yourself, what am I really building? Who am I serving? How is this shaping my future and the future of others? When you find those answers, work stops being a burden and becomes a blessing. Purposeful work also gave them joy, even when tasks were hard. They found meaning in small things, like preparing a meal with care or repairing a tool with patience. Each act was a way of contributing, of saying, "I matter, and what I do matters." This mindset turned even the most ordinary days into meaningful expressions of prosperity. Today, many search for work that feels fulfilling, and my grandparents' wisdom reveals why. Without purpose, effort feels draining, but with it, effort becomes energizing. They showed me that true prosperity isn't measured by how easy your path is, but by how meaningful your journey feels. Work, when aligned with purpose, becomes sacred fuel for abundance. My grandparents taught me that true prosperity doesn't come from escaping effort, it comes from elevating effort with purpose. And once you understand that, you stop waiting for life to hand you prosperity, and you start creating it. one purposeful action at a time. Topic 6. Patience is the bridge between effort and reward. If there was one lesson my grandparents repeated endlessly, it was this: everything valuable takes time. My grandfather used to compare prosperity to planting a tree. You don't plant a seed today and expect shade tomorrow, he'd say. You water, you wait, and one day, without realizing it, you're sitting under the tree you planted years ago. This wisdom seems simple, but it holds the secret to why so many people give up on their dreams. We live in a culture of instant gratification. We want results now, wealth now, recognition now, transformation now. And when things don't come quickly, we start doubting ourselves, doubting the process, doubting life itself. But my grandparents knew the truth. Impatience kills prosperity. Patience sustains it. Patience is not passive waiting. It's not sitting idly, hoping that one day luck will knock at your door. Patience is active trust. It's the discipline of continuing to show up, to nurture, to give your best effort, even when the results are invisible. It's holding the vision in your heart while allowing time to do its work. I remember one season when my grandfather planted corn, and weeks went by with barely any sprouts. Neighbors mocked him, saying he had wasted his time. But he kept watering, kept believing, and kept tending to the soil. A month later, the sprouts pushed through, and by the end of the season, his harvest was plentiful. He used to smile and say, "See, the soil was never empty. It was just working underground." That became one of the greatest metaphors for life that I carry with me to this day. So many people quit right before the miracle. They abandon the path when success is just beneath the surface, waiting to break through. Why? Because they can't see it yet. But prosperity doesn't reveal itself immediately. It's often growing in silence, beneath the surface, preparing to bloom when the time is right. Patience is also about wisdom. It teaches you that timing is as important as effort. Imagine giving birth to a child at 6 months. It's too early, and life isn't ready. The same is true for success. Rushing can destroy what persistence could have perfected. That's why patience is not weakness, it's strength. It's the ability to trust that life's seasons have their own timing. In modern terms, we might call this delayed gratification, the ability to resist the temptation of immediate rewards in order to receive something greater later on. Studies show that people who master this skill tend to live wealthier, healthier, and more fulfilled lives. But my grandparents didn't need studies to prove it. They lived it. They embodied it. And here's the paradox. When you truly embrace patience, you no longer feel like you're waiting. You live fully in the process. You enjoy the small wins along the way. You recognize that every step, every lesson, every challenge is part of the abundance you're creating. Patience turns the journey itself into prosperity. The world will try to rush you. You'll see others achieving faster, and you'll wonder if you're falling behind. But here's the truth. Your timing is not their timing. Your path is not their path. If you plant your seed with love and nurture it with discipline, your harvest will come at the perfect time, your time. My grandparents taught me that prosperity without patience is short-lived. It collapses under the weight of unmet expectations. But prosperity with patience is eternal, because it's rooted in trust, not desperation. Patience also protected them from making reckless decisions. Instead of rushing into investments or choices out of fear, they trusted timing. They believed that everything worth having required waiting and nurturing. This allowed them to avoid unnecessary mistakes and to build a life that grew stronger with each season. In our world of urgency, patience is often mistaken for weakness, but my grandparents revealed its hidden power. Patience sharpens wisdom. It creates space for clarity and for opportunities to arrive at the right moment. Prosperity, they believed, was not about speed. It was about alignment with life's rhythm. So remember this, patience is not about waiting for life to happen to you. It's about trusting the process while you keep moving forward. It's about knowing that effort plus time equals reward. And when you truly embrace patience, you stop chasing prosperity and start living in it, even before the harvest arrives. Topic 7. Integrity turns prosperity into legacy. My grandfather had a saying that has never left me. If you lose money, you can earn it back. If you lose trust, you may never recover it. For him, prosperity was not only about what you had, but about who you became in the process of creating it. He believed that integrity was the foundation that turned temporary success into something lasting, into a legacy. I remember watching him in situations where cutting corners could have saved him time or even earned him more money. People around him often took shortcuts, compromised their word, or looked for the easy way out. But he didn't. He believed that every decision was a seed, and dishonest seeds would eventually poison the harvest. That kind of clarity left a deep mark on me. Integrity, at its core, is alignment. It's when your words, your actions, and your values are consistent, no matter who's watching. And here's the paradox. It's often harder in the short term. Being honest may cost you money. Being ethical may slow you down. Standing by your principles may isolate you at times. But my grandparents believed and lived the truth that integrity always pays back more in the long run than dishonesty ever could. The modern world often tempts us to believe otherwise. We see people getting rich through deception, manipulation, or corruption, and it makes us wonder, does integrity even matter? But here's the hidden reality. Success without integrity eventually collapses. It may look strong for a season, but without roots, the storm will tear it apart. Prosperity without integrity is like a house built on sand. My grandmother embodied this principle in her own quiet way. She never broke a promise, no matter how small. If she told a neighbor she'd help, she would be there, even if it meant adjusting her own plans. If she lent something, she expected it back with the same respect she gave when offering it. These small acts of honesty built a reputation that followed her everywhere. People trusted her, and that trust became a form of wealth that no one could steal. Think about it in your own life. How many opportunities have you been given simply because someone trusted you? How many doors opened because your name carried weight, not just for what you could do, but for who you are? That's the unseen wealth integrity creates. It multiplies opportunities, relationships, and influence in ways that money alone never could. And here's something even more powerful. Integrity creates peace. When you live aligned with your values, you don't live in fear of being exposed. You don't carry the hidden weight of lies or the anxiety of being found out. You walk lighter, you sleep better, you attract people who value the same principles. That kind of prosperity is invisible but priceless. My grandfather often reminded me that prosperity without integrity is like building a fortune on borrowed time. It might shine for a moment, but it will not last. True wealth, the kind that becomes legacy, is rooted in honesty, character, and alignment with what's right. So, the timeless lesson here is simple but profound. Never trade your integrity for short-term gain. The money may fade, the applause may die down, but your name, your reputation, remains. That's why integrity is not just about prosperity for today. It's about creating a foundation that future generations can stand on with pride. Their integrity didn't just protect their reputation, it gave them peace. They never had to look over their shoulder or fear exposure because they knew they had acted with honesty. That freedom from guilt and anxiety was a form of prosperity that money could never buy. It allowed them to live lightly, with clear consciences and strong relationships. Integrity also attracted the right people into their lives. Those who valued shortcuts drifted away, while those who valued truth drew closer. This filtered their circle, surrounding them with people who shared their values. Prosperity, they showed me, is not just about what you build, but who you build it with. And integrity makes sure you attract the right allies. Prosperity may give you comfort, but integrity gives you immortality. And when both walk together, your life becomes more than successful. It becomes significant. Topic 8. Generosity expands what you have. My grandparents lived through times when money was scarce, yet I never once heard them say they had nothing to give. Even in their most modest days, they always found a way to share, whether it was food, time, advice, or a helping hand. My grandmother often said, "The hand that gives is never empty." As a child, I didn't understand how giving could make you richer. Shouldn't generosity leave you with less? But over time, I came to see that generosity doesn't subtract, it multiplies. Generosity is not just about money, it's about spirit. It's the decision to live with an open hand instead of a clenched fist. My grandfather would often help neighbors with their crops, even when his own work was waiting. And strangely, he never seemed to fall behind. In fact, he thrived. People wanted to help him in return. Doors opened and goodwill surrounded him. I realized generosity creates a cycle that always comes back multiplied. The modern world often teaches the opposite. It tells us to hold tightly, to protect what's ours, to hoard for fear of losing. But my grandparents lived proof of a deeper truth. The more you give, the more life gives back. Not always immediately, not always in the form you expect, but always in ways that enrich your journey. Think about it. When you give sincerely, you create a ripple. That ripple builds trust, goodwill, and connections that money can't buy. You never know how far a single act of generosity will go. It might inspire someone, open an opportunity, or even return to you years later in a way you never imagined. I remember my grandmother inviting strangers into her home during hard winters, offering them soup and warmth. To her, it was natural. "If we have enough for two, we have enough for three," she would say. That kind of mindset turned scarcity into abundance. Instead of focusing on what was missing, she focused on what she could share. And because of that, she always lived with a sense of enough. Here's the paradox. Those who hold tightly often feel they never have enough, while those who give freely often feel rich. Why? Because prosperity is not only about the size of your bank account, it's about the size of your heart. Generosity also transforms you internally. It shifts your focus from lack to abundance, from fear to trust. Every time you give, you tell yourself and the universe, "I have enough. I am enough. And there is always more where this came from." That mindset magnetizes opportunities, relationships, and prosperity into your life. And generosity doesn't mean recklessness. It doesn't mean giving away everything without wisdom. My grandparents weren't careless. They gave within their means, sometimes stretching a little, but always with love and intention. They understood that prosperity is energy, and when you keep it flowing, it grows. When you hoard it, it stagnates. Today, we often think of generosity as charity, but it's much more than that. It's a lifestyle. It's offering your best in every interaction, your best effort, your best smile, your best attention. It's sharing knowledge, encouragement, or a moment of presence with someone who needs it. Those are forms of wealth too, and they always multiply when given. So, the lesson is this: don't wait until you're rich to be generous. Be generous now with whatever you have and watch how your life expands. My grandparents didn't give because they were wealthy. They were wealthy because they gave. Generosity also taught them to trust the flow of life. They knew that giving didn't weaken them. It strengthened the bond between themselves and others. Their acts of kindness created a network of goodwill that always came back, sometimes in ways they never expected. That invisible flow was proof to them that prosperity circulates. It never stagnates. In a modern sense, generosity creates opportunities. When you give knowledge, support, or even kindness, you strengthen connections that later open doors. My grandparents proved that prosperity grows when you stop hoarding and start sharing. In their eyes, giving was not an act of loss, but an investment in a richer future. True prosperity is not measured by what you keep, but by what flows through you. And when you live with that spirit of generosity, abundance stops being a distant dream and becomes a daily reality. Topic 9. Focus is the superpower of prosperity. My grandparents didn't have smartphones, television channels to distract them endlessly, or the constant noise of social media competing for their attention. What they had was focus. My grandfather would often sit for hours tending to a task, completely absorbed, without rushing or multitasking. He would tell me, "If you chase two rabbits at the same time, you'll catch none. Focus on one thing and you'll eat tonight." That simple wisdom became one of the most powerful lessons of prosperity I've ever learned. In a world full of distractions, the ability to focus has become rare and therefore incredibly valuable. Success does not come to those who scatter their energy everywhere. It comes to those who concentrate their time, attention, and effort on what truly matters. Focus is the bridge between vision and reality. Without it, even the clearest dream dissolves into wasted potential. With it, ordinary people achieve extraordinary things. My grandmother embodied this too. Whether she was sewing, cooking, or working in the garden, she gave her full attention to what was in front of her. And the result? Her work carried a quality, a presence, that could not be replicated by someone distracted. Modern life has convinced us that multitasking is a strength, but the truth is the opposite. Multitasking divides your energy. Focus multiplies it. When you give your full attention to one task, one goal, or one vision, you align your entire being with creation. And that alignment produces results far greater than scattered effort ever could. I remember once asking my grandfather why he never seemed rushed, even though he had so much to do. He smiled and said, "Because I do one thing at a time, and I do it well. That way, I don't waste energy fixing what I did carelessly." That insight hit me deeply. How much of our frustration today comes not from doing too little, but from doing too many things poorly. Focus also builds discipline. It's the art of shutting out the noise, of saying no to 1,000 small temptations so you can say yes to the few things that truly move your life forward. My grandparents were not constantly busy, but they were always productive. They understood that what you focus on grows. If you focus on problems, they expand. If you focus on possibilities, they multiply. This principle applies to every area of life. In finances, focusing on saving and investing consistently builds prosperity. In relationships, focusing on presence and communication builds love and trust. In personal growth, focusing on learning and self-awareness builds wisdom. The problem is not that we lack opportunities, it's that we lack focus. Here's the timeless truth. Prosperity is less about doing everything and more about doing the right things with undivided attention. The world will try to pull you in every direction, but your power lies in choosing your direction deliberately. Focus transforms scattered energy into unstoppable force. My grandparents lived in a world that was simpler, but their wisdom is even more necessary today. In a time of constant distraction, the person who masters focus becomes unstoppable. If you want prosperity, don't just dream. Don't just plan. Focus. Because focus turns dreams into action, and action into success. Focus also gave them clarity of priorities. They never wasted energy comparing themselves to others or chasing too many ambitions at once. Instead, they concentrated on what mattered most: family, work, faith, and contribution. That clarity brought them peace, because they knew they were building something that aligned with their values. In today's chaotic world, focus has become a rare skill. But when mastered, it is a superpower that multiplies impact. My grandparents' lives remind me that success is not about doing more, but about doing what matters deeply. Prosperity, they taught me, is born in the power of undivided attention. The lesson is clear. Decide what matters most, eliminate distractions, and give your energy fully to what will bring you closer to prosperity. Everything else is noise. My grandfather's voice still echoes in my mind. If you chase 2 rabbits, you'll catch none. And every time I remember that, I ask myself, am I chasing too many rabbits, or am I focused on the one that really matters? Topic 10. Resilience turns setbacks into prosperity. One of the strongest lessons my grandparents taught me was this: prosperity is not the absence of challenges, it's the ability to rise above them. My grandfather would often say, falling down is not the end, staying down is. To him, resilience was the true measure of wealth, because it determined whether you could keep moving forward when life pushed you back. I grew up hearing stories of how my grandparents endured hardships, failed crops, economic struggles, health challenges, and yet, no matter how tough things became, they refused to let circumstances define them. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to us?" they asked, "What can we learn? How do we grow from this?" That shift in perspective turned every setback into a stepping stone. Resilience is the art of transforming pain into power. It's not about denying that difficulties hurt. It's about refusing to let them paralyze you. My grandmother used to tell me, crying is allowed, quitting is not. She believed that emotions were natural, but surrendering your dreams to hardship was never an option. Here's the timeless truth. Success is not built on comfort. It's built on resilience. Every person who achieves lasting prosperity has faced moments when giving up seemed easier. But resilience is the voice that says, just one more step. And that one step often leads to breakthroughs you couldn't imagine when you were in the middle of the storm. Modern society often glorifies quick wins, But resilience reminds us that real prosperity is earned through persistence. Failures are not the opposite of success. They are part of it. My grandfather's failed harvests didn't end his journey. They taught him how to prepare better for the next season. Every mistake became experience. Every setback became wisdom. I remember a story he told me of a time when a storm destroyed nearly everything he had planted. Many farmers in the region gave up, discouraged, but he replanted, even though it meant starting over. He said to me, "The storm takes what is weak, but it also clears the ground for something stronger." By the end of that year, his crops grew healthier than before. That resilience shaped not just his farm, but his entire outlook on life. Resilience is also contagious. When you show strength in adversity, you inspire others. My grandparents' ability to endure gave their children, and later their grandchildren, a model of courage. They proved that prosperity is not just about what you accumulate, but about the kind of spirit you pass on. Here's the modern application. Challenges are inevitable. Economic downturns, failed businesses, broken relationships, unexpected losses, they come to everyone. What separates those who prosper from those who remain stuck is not luck, but resilience. The ability to see challenges as temporary, to extract lessons from them, and to keep moving forward no matter what. Resilience also changes how you see yourself. Every time you overcome a challenge, you build inner wealth, confidence, strength, faith. That wealth cannot be taken from you, no matter what happens in the external world. And often, that internal wealth is what eventually creates external success. So, the timeless lesson my grandparents passed down is this: don't fear setbacks, expect them. And when they come, don't waste time asking why. They are part of your growth. Ask yourself how you can rise higher because of them. Prosperity is not a straight path. It is a winding road filled with obstacles. But resilience is the vehicle that keeps you moving forward until you reach the destination. Resilience also taught them not to fear failure. To them, every setback was a teacher disguised as hardship. They believed that losses carried hidden lessons that prepared them for greater victories ahead. This mindset transformed struggles into stepping stones and gave them the courage to keep moving forward. Modern life often views failure as final, but resilience proves otherwise. Each time my grandparents bounced back, they grew stronger, wiser, and more prepared. They showed me that prosperity is not built on never falling, but on rising every single time you do. That is the quiet power of resilience. True prosperity is not the absence of storms. It's the ability to dance in the rain, rebuild when necessary, and keep your eyes on the vision no matter how many times life tests you. My grandparents taught me that resilience doesn't just create success. It creates strength, character, and a spirit that no challenge can ever break. Topic 11. Faith creates the invisible foundation of prosperity. My grandparents never had complex explanations for life. They didn't speak about quantum physics, manifestation, or the law of attraction, but they lived as if they understood those principles better than anyone. Their secret? Faith. My grandfather would often say, "We don't need to see the whole road to know the path is there. One step at a time is enough." Faith was not just a religious idea for them. It was a way of living. They believed that life had a rhythm, that seasons would always return, and that even in the darkest moments, something good was being prepared. This kind of faith gave them strength that no material possession could provide. I remember times when money was scarce and circumstances looked impossible. Instead of panicking, my grandmother would sit at the table, close her eyes, and whisper, "We'll find a way. We always do." That quiet confidence didn't magically solve problems, but it created peace. And in that peace, solutions appeared. People arrived to help. Unexpected opportunities opened. And little by little, things always worked out. Faith, I learned, is the invisible foundation of prosperity. It's what keeps you steady when circumstances shake. It's what pushes you to take the next step even when the outcome is uncertain. Without faith, you collapse under fear. With faith, you move forward, and forward is where prosperity lives. Here's the paradox. Faith does not remove challenges. My grandparents still faced storms, debts, illnesses, and losses, but faith gave them the power to walk through those challenges without losing their spirit. And that, in itself, is a form of wealth. Because what good is external success if internally you're drowning in fear? Faith is also creative. It stretches your imagination. It dares you to see beyond what is visible. When you believe that something better is possible, your mind begins to search for ways to create it. My grandfather taught me that when you believe, you activate not just your spirit, but your resourcefulness. Faith awakens ideas, attracts people, and opens doors that doubt would keep closed. I once asked him how he stayed calm when everything seemed uncertain. He looked at me and said, "Because storms don't last forever. If I give up now, I'll never see the rainbow." That image stayed in my heart. Faith is the decision to wait for the rainbow, even when the sky is still dark. In the modern world, we often confuse faith with superstition, but true faith is not blind. It's visionary. It's the ability to stand firm in the unseen while you keep building in the seen. It's the decision to act as if what you believe in is already real. And that kind of faith creates prosperity long before the results arrive. Here's the timeless truth. Faith is not just about hoping. It's about knowing. It's not about wishing. It's about trusting. And when you live with that kind of trust, fear loses its grip, and prosperity begins to flow naturally. My grandparents showed me that faith is not a luxury for the spiritual. It's a necessity for the prosperous. Without faith, prosperity feels fragile. With faith, even in the hardest times, you carry a sense of abundance that no crisis can steal. Faith also gave them courage to dream bigger than their circumstances. They believed that life was not just a series of random events, but a story unfolding with meaning. That belief allowed them to hold visions for a better future, even when their present seemed small. Faith gave them a lens of hope that prosperity always begins with. Faith also connected them to others. It created communities of support where people encouraged and lifted each other. My grandparents showed me that faith is not just personal, it is collective. When people believe together, they build prosperity that is larger than any individual could achieve alone. So, the lesson is this: nurture your faith. Believe in your path even when it's unclear. Trust the process even when it's hard. And remember, prosperity doesn't always start in the bank. It starts in the heart, with the quiet but powerful belief that life is working for you, not against you. Topic 12. Self-respect is the root of prosperity. One of the most profound lessons I learned from my grandparents was that prosperity begins not with money, but with how you see yourself. My grandmother would often tell me, "If you don't respect yourself, no one else will." At first, those words seemed simple, almost obvious. But as I grew older, I realized the depth of what she meant. Self-respect is the soil where all prosperity grows. Without it, nothing can truly last. I watched how my grandparents carried themselves. They never dressed to impress others, but they always presented themselves with dignity. Even when resources were scarce, they kept their clothes clean, their posture straight, and their words honorable. They didn't see self-respect as pride, but as recognition of their own value, and that value shaped the way others treated them. Here's the truth. People will always treat you as a reflection of how you treat yourself. If you constantly compromise your values, accept less than you deserve, or belittle your own worth, you invite others to do the same. But when you live with self-respect, when you hold yourself to standards of honesty, discipline, and dignity, you naturally attract respect from the world. My grandfather used to tell me, "A man with no self-respect can win wealth, but he will never keep it." And I've seen that to be true. Prosperity is not just about what you acquire, it's about who you become. And when you respect yourself, you build boundaries that protect your energy, your time, and your purpose. Self-respect also fuels confidence. When you honor yourself, you move differently. You make decisions from a place of strength instead of fear. You don't chase validation because you already know your worth. That inner posture opens doors that insecurity would keep locked. I remember a story about my grandmother being offered a business deal by someone who promised quick profits, but required her to cut ethical corners. Many others around her jumped at the opportunity, but she declined. People thought she was foolish, but years later, when that business collapsed, she was still standing strong because her self-respect wouldn't let her sell her values for temporary gain. That moment taught me that prosperity without self-respect is an illusion. In the modern world, self-respect often gets confused with arrogance. But there's a difference. Arrogance shouts to prove its worth. Self-respect doesn't need to. It speaks quietly, through the way you carry yourself, the way you speak to others, and the standards you refuse to compromise. And here's the deeper truth. When you respect yourself, you naturally begin to respect others. Prosperity built on self-respect is never selfish. It creates an atmosphere of dignity and mutual value. It transforms relationships, businesses, and communities because it's built on honor. So, the timeless lesson my grandparents taught me is this: wealth without self-respect is fragile. It can vanish as quickly as it came. But self-respect creates an inner wealth that no crisis, no loss, no setback can erase. It is the invisible shield that protects your prosperity and turns it into something lasting. Self-respect also gave them strength to set boundaries. They didn't allow others to take advantage of their kindness or undervalue their contributions. This quiet firmness taught me that respecting yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary to protect your energy and ensure your prosperity grows in safe soil. Self-respect also shaped the way they made decisions. They didn't chase shortcuts or compromise their principles because they valued their own dignity above temporary gain. Their example showed me that prosperity built without self-respect is unstable, but prosperity built on honor is unshakable. True prosperity is not just measured in what you own, but in how you see yourself every morning in the mirror. And when that reflection is filled with self-respect, you carry an abundance that the world cannot take away. Topic 13. Balance sustains prosperity through every season. My grandparents lived lives of balance. They worked hard, but they also rested. They saved money, but they also enjoyed moments of joy. They valued ambition, but they never sacrificed family, health, or peace of mind in pursuit of it. My grandmother would often say, "Too much of anything becomes poverty, even if it looks like wealth." That phrase stayed with me, because balance, I realized, is the silent guardian of prosperity. Without it, even abundance can destroy you. What good is wealth if you lose your health chasing it? What good is success if you destroy your relationships along the way? What good is recognition if you lose your peace of mind to stress and overwork? Balance doesn't mean mediocrity, it means wisdom. It means knowing when to push forward and when to pause. It means understanding that life is not meant to be lived in extremes. My grandfather worked tirelessly in the fields, but every Sunday he rested. He believed rest was not laziness, it was renewal. That rhythm kept him strong for decades, while others burned out. In today's world, we glorify hustle and grind. We admire those who never stop working, who sacrifice everything for the pursuit of success. But my grandparents knew a deeper truth. Prosperity that costs you your health, your family, or your soul is not prosperity. It's just another form of poverty. Balance also means enjoyment. My grandmother taught me that prosperity is not just about accumulation, but about appreciation. She would bake bread, gather the family around the table, and say, "This is wealth, being together, being grateful, being alive." She knew that abundance is not just found in what you own, but in how deeply you experience what you already have. The timeless truth is this: prosperity without balance collapses. You can achieve great wealth and still feel empty if your life is consumed by one dimension alone. Balance is what makes prosperity sustainable. It ensures that your abundance lasts, that it grows with harmony, and that it enriches, not drains, your spirit. Think about the seasons. Nature itself is built on balance: spring for planting, summer for growth, autumn for harvest, and winter for rest. If you try to live in only one season, you break the cycle. The same is true for your life. Prosperity thrives when you honor the seasons of work, rest, giving, receiving, ambition, and reflection. Balance is also about perspective. My grandparents never chased trends, never got swept up in comparison. They lived in tune with their values, and because of that, they stayed steady, no matter what others were doing. That steadiness is part of prosperity too. It keeps you grounded while the world shifts around you. So, the lesson is simple but profound. Prosperity without balance is fragile. True abundance is not just about having more, it's about living fully, with harmony in every area of life. Balance allows you to enjoy the journey, not just the destination. Balance also taught them joy in simplicity. They didn't need grand luxuries to feel rich. Small moments of laughter, shared meals, and rest were treasures to them. That ability to enjoy life's simple gifts made their prosperity sustainable because it was rooted in gratitude, not greed. Balance also gave them perspective in hard times. They knew that no storm lasted forever and no harvest was endless. By honoring life's cycles, they stayed steady in both abundance and scarcity. This steadiness is what allowed their prosperity to endure season after season. My grandparents showed me that balance doesn't weaken prosperity. It strengthens it. It turns fleeting success into lasting wealth, and it transforms moments into memories that become treasures far greater than money. Topic 14. Legacy is the true measure of prosperity. When I think back to everything my grandparents taught me, one truth rises above them all. Prosperity is not just what you achieve in your lifetime. It's what you leave behind. My grandfather used to say, "Wealth dies with you, but wisdom outlives you." And my grandmother would add, "A good name is a treasure no one can steal." Together, they reminded me that the highest form of success is not measured in possessions, but in the legacy you leave for those who come after you. A legacy is more than inheritance. It's not about the money or the property you leave. It's about the principles, the values, and the example you set. My grandparents didn't leave behind riches in a bank account, but they left me, and everyone around them, something far more valuable: the wisdom to live a life of abundance, purpose, integrity, and love. Think about it. Possessions fade, money can be lost, but lessons endure. A child who grows up seeing generosity, resilience, patience, and faith will carry those treasures into their own future, multiplying them through their actions. That is how prosperity transcends one lifetime and continues for generations. Legacy is also about impact. Who have you lifted? Whose life is better because you lived? My grandmother often reminded me that prosperity without contribution is hollow. She said, "If your abundance doesn't touch anyone else, it's not abundance, it's isolation." And I've carried that truth with me ever since. Legacy also means planting seeds you may never see bloom. My grandparents understood that the impact of their actions might not reveal itself in their lifetime, yet they lived with the awareness that future generations would benefit from their values. That forward-thinking spirit is what turned their lives into lasting prosperity. Legacy is also about inspiration. The way they lived continues to inspire choices I make today, and I know their influence will ripple through generations. True prosperity, they taught me, is not measured by the wealth you accumulate, but by the hope, wisdom, and love you leave behind for others to carry forward. The timeless lesson here is simple. Success is not about how high you climb, but about how many hands you extend while climbing. Prosperity is not about how much you take with you, but about how much you leave behind. When I reflect on my grandparents' lives, I realize they achieved the highest form of wealth, not because of what they owned, but because of the seeds they planted in others. Seeds of wisdom, seeds of courage, seeds of faith. And those seeds are still alive in me today, guiding the way I live, the way I think, and the way I help others. That is true prosperity. So here's the final message. Don't just chase success for yourself. Think about the legacy you're building. Every choice you make, every word you speak, every value you live by, it's shaping a story that will outlast you. Will your story inspire? Will it guide? Will it enrich others long after you're gone? My grandparents proved to me that the greatest legacy is not in the things you leave, but in the spirit you pass on. Money fades, but love remains. Status disappears, but character endures. Achievements can be forgotten, but the way you made others feel will echo through time. That is the essence of prosperity. To live fully, to love deeply, and to leave behind a path that lights the way for others. If these lessons touched your heart today, remember, you carry the power to create your own legacy of prosperity and success. If you want more wisdom like this, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to this channel so we can continue this journey together. Let's build not just wealth, but a future filled with abundance, integrity, and purpose.